Alright, I just put in a different capacitor. That one was reading out by like 5 microfarads. So let's see if it starts this time. Nope. 72 amps. Sort of making a burnt smell. That's not good. Yeah, I think we'll have to pull the cover on it and see what it looks like. Once I got this propped out of the way, I can see smoke coming out from under the cover, so could be it blew a pin, could be it just is a burnt wire. Unfortunately, it is a pin that melted off. So there's actually not really a way to fix this. If you look in here, I actually can't really tell, but it might have blown the pin. Maybe the second one this week, the blown pin. If that's the case, it doesn't look super oily, a little bit though. Bummer. Well, we're back to the blown pin unit. We're gonna go ahead and get it replaced. Just cutting the line set off here. Didn't have to recover any refrigerant, obviously, since it had blown. Clean in there. Standard air conditioner really doesn't have that much hooked up to it. You've got the large suction line, the small liquid line, 2 wires for the low voltage and 2 wires for the high voltage. Some people get kind of whiny when I call anything high voltage that's less than like 10,000 volts. Obviously, high voltage in this case is relative to our low voltage control circuit. Sort of like your roof isn't very tall compared to a skyscraper, but it's pretty tall if you fall off of it. Notice here that my refrigeration hoses are hooked up, and that's because I am purging some nitrogen through the line as I make these braze connections. Just got to be careful to not overheat the valves. And here I'm hooking up the wires. I really like that this system has a piece of conduit for both the low voltage and the high voltage wires coming to the unit. Of course, you have to have it for the high voltage stuff, but for the low voltage circuit, oftentimes it's just run exposed, which usually it's not a problem, but sometimes. While I was working on the outdoor stuff, my brother was removing the old coil and getting the ductwork set up for the new coil. It was kind of an odd size of coil that was actually in there before, as well as the furnace plenum being kind of a strange size, so we ended up having to make a cover for the front as well as the back. I decided to put the filter dryer on the inside liquid line right before it goes into the coil and expansion valve. Just seems like some places it works better to put it inside, some places it works better to put it outside, but the closer you can get it to the orifice or expansion valve, the better it protects it, in my opinion. Sort of seems like installing the outdoor unit would be more time consuming, but I've found that putting the coil in is usually what takes the most time, just because the ductwork is always different and it just takes a while to get it put in such a way that it looks nice and works well. Whenever we're installing an air conditioner, it is always a race to get all of the braze connections done, because we have to pull a vacuum on the system, and that actually takes a good amount of time. So you want to get the vacuum started as soon as possible and then finish buttoning everything else up while it's pulling down. Alright, so I just put a couple 100 pounds of dry nitrogen in there now that we're done brazing. And we're going to do a general leak inspection before we let the refrigerant go, using some soap and a mirror. And if we've got any significant leaks, we'll find them immediately. Or any small ones too, actually. Okay, so we're good. No leaks. In here, we're gonna go put the vacuum on. And there we are, pulling a vacuum. And there's the wiring hooked up. Kind of interesting, they put some insulation in there to keep mice from going down into the conduit, I guess. So we had to, same thing as the other people, we had to build an extension out on this side of the ductwork because it's a very strange size of duct. And the old coil was like super narrow for whatever reason. You can see the old coil had a fixed orifice, and of course our new one has an expansion valve, so we've got the bulb mounted here. I just got to get it insulated, and then we got to hook up the condensate drain and get some silicone or thumb gum around these connections, and then we should be good. So now we're insulated, and I put the coil sticker right there so that we can look it up if we need to. Alright, now we're gonna start it up. Taking right off. Moving some heat already. Looking nice. So it's actually close to 85 degrees in the house, which is why our pressure is running so high. And this line set is actually short enough that the factory charge is adequate. These particular systems come with enough refrigerant for 15 feet of line set, so we're not going to add any refrigerant to the system. And there we are, all good to go. Happy Coleman unit.